him to do something and he doesn't want to do it, I'll say like, well, Mason, sit down. And he'll go, Mason, what'd you say? Mason, don't play with me. He grunts at me like the Hulk. Doesn't move, doesn't do what I tell him. So I'm sure he's doing that to his mama and daddy them too. They need to check that real quick. These kids right now, man, they're out of control. But absolutely had a great time this weekend. Went to the fair, the North Georgia State Fair, which was fantastic. And I love the fair. I'm still a kid at heart. I'm about to be in the official classification as an old man in the club. I love the fair. Got out there and had the kids on the little kiddie rides. My daughter, middle daughter, Kara, a.k.a. the life of the party, the LOP, she's to that age now where she wants to ride the Himalaya. Yes, and I've actually got a video, the first ever live video recording of someone riding the Himalaya. Right, it's crazy. So I'm going to put that up on my Facebook and on my Twitter a little bit later. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at thedougstewartshow.com. You can also call me at 404-382-0338. That's the number to the show. Would love to work with you and your company and promote your brand, your product, the thing that you're trying to get out there, whatever you're trying to get out there. We'd love to work with you on the Doug Stewart Show. Email me, Doug at thedougstewartshow.com. Whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to get into, that's what we can do. We also just came up with a little side topic on today's show. Your favorite little guy in sports. I was talking about Steve Smith, and Steve Smith is just all heart. He talked about blood and guts this past weekend when they took on Carolina, and that's what it was. Blood and guts. He just went off. Just fantastic game. 7 catches, 139 yards against his old team. That's got to feel real good. So give me a guy, your favorite all-time little guy. And here's a tweet from Kevin. He says, all-time little guy is Allen Iverson, a.k.a. Bubba Chuck. Yes, and I agree with that. And I was trying to think of a guy that I may put in that same company with Steve Smith as an all-time little guy. And yes, it's Allen Iverson. Yes, one of my favorite players of all time. That's a great tweet, Kevin. Here comes a tweet from Mike. He says, Doug, it's called parody. Cutler is like the girl with the curl when he's good. Heck's good when he's bad. Horrid. Yes. And the problem with Cutler is his demeanor is just bad. Cutler doesn't even carry himself like a leader. I talked a week ago about Eli Manning and the fact that if Eli was a general, I think it'd be hard for his soldiers to follow him just because of his demeanor. And I know it's not right and it should be all about what you do on the field, but damn it, it's true. It matters. And Cutler's body language is just horrible. It's not that of a leader. It's just not that of a leader. Same thing with Eli. Very strange. Speaking of which, the Giants looking like they're starting to turn things around right now. But yeah, Cutler is just horrible. Yeah, so thanks for the tweets. You can tweet me at The Doug Stewart Show. The Doug Stewart Show, at The Doug Stewart Show. The Falcons, horrible loss this weekend. Speaking of horrible, as they lose 41-28 against the Minnesota Vikings. In Minneapolis, Teddy Bridgewater passed for 317 yards and a 2-point conversion. And the Vikings had a great win over the Falcons this past weekend. The Falcons got a ton of injuries this past weekend. They were run on at will, which is something that everybody's been talking about would be the issue with the Falcons, is their defense is not one of the best. Even though they brought in Brian Cox to instill some toughness, it's just not enough. They just don't have the players right now. And they've really made an effort to surround Matt Ryan with playmakers, and that's come to fruition. But what about the defense? What about defense wins championships? All right? What about defense wins championships? And it seems like the Falcons have really neglected that, especially the defensive line, where really no big playmakers on that side of the ball. But so a tough loss this weekend. Running back out of Georgia Southern, Jerick McKinnon, rushed 18 times for 135 yards. Asiata, the starting running back. Both these guys replacing Adrian Peterson. He had 20 carries for 78 yards. And Vikings get a good win. The big story, though, is Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater gets the ball award. This guy played fantastic. And and he went late in the first round. A year earlier, everybody was saying he was going to be the first pick in the draft, and Blake Bortles is the first quarterback taken. And everybody's like, what's the matter with Teddy? And he's not going to be able to play at this level. After one game, you can tell he can play at this level. Very precise with his passes. Knew where to go with the football. Seems like he read the defenses very well. It's just one game, though. It's just one game, so you have to see what transpires going forward. But he looks like he belongs. He definitely looks like he belongs. Got nicked up yesterday, twisted his ankle. The x-rays were negative, so he should be good to go. They have a Thursday night game this week, so hopefully he can get back in there and try to add upon what he's done in the first week, his first start in the NFL. Also, the Georgia Bulldogs, they rolled as well. They get a ball award. They beat Tennessee 35-32. Todd Gurley, great game, and that's what we're used to seeing from Todd Gurley. 208 yards and 2 touchdowns and looked fantastic. Tennessee's lost 21 straight road games against ranked teams. Todd Gurley, I think right now, is in the lead for the Heisman Trophy, as well as Kenny Hill from Texas A&M, as they come back and have a huge win over Arkansas. We can get into that a little bit later as well if you want. But I think right now it's Gurley and Hill. I don't think Jameis Winston is probably in the running anymore right now, but Gurley just looks, and it's funny, and you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show, it's funny when you think about it. Ever since 1980, and Herschel Walker left the campus in Athens, Georgia, from the University of Georgia, it seems like Georgia's been waiting or predicting this is the next Herschel Walker. Am I wrong about that? Okay? And Georgia's had some great running backs over the years, don't get me wrong. Lars Tate, Garrison Hurst, Rodney Hampton in a small case. They've had some very good running backs, but no one's ever been able to replace Herschel Walker. I think outside, I'm trying to think, Garrison Hurst was a beast. Garrison Hurst in that number 5, he had an incredible lean. He was probably the prettiest running back out of all those Georgia running backs. But I think Todd Gurley might be the best running back that Georgia's had since Herschel Walker. Okay? And there's been a lot of disappointment. There's been a lot of guys that have come through and supposed to have been the next Herschel. Noshawn Moreno did some things. Thomas Brown did some things. Craig Lumpkin did some things. But no one's ever lived up to that. A guy that can win the Heisman Trophy or a guy that you would put in the same company with Herschel Walker. No one even close. Herschel's maybe the greatest player to ever play in the SEC. Period. Not just running back. In the SEC, period. But Todd Gurley is damn close as far as his production and the ability to make big plays for that Georgia program over the last couple of years. I mean, think back over the years. There's been so many guys that have been disappointing. I think back. Remember Jasper Sinks? If you're a Bulldogs fan, do you remember Jasper Sinks? Jasper Sinks was supposed to be the next Herschel. Show as my name ain't Sam. And what? No. What about Odell Collins? You remember Odell Collins? Like in the early 90s? Yes. He was supposed to be the next Herschel Walker, and not so much. How about Isaiah Crowell from a couple of years ago? By the way, did you know Isaiah Crowell is the running back? Is the starting running back for the Cleveland Browns? Yes. Yes, so Isaiah Crowell has somewhat redeemed himself. Can he keep his nose clean? Big-time recruit coming in for the University of Georgia a couple of years ago. Ran afoul of the law, kept getting in trouble. Weed or something like that, and they kicked him off the team. And he ended up at Alabama State, I believe it was, and did big things in the SWAC, but that's not the SEC, and wasn't drafted as all. Actually signed as a free agent with the Cleveland Browns, but he's doing good things. So I'm happy for that young man. I'm happy that he's seemingly got a second shot and looking like he's going to make the most of it. I'm happy for that young man. I always like to see positive things happen. I always do. I don't care what the situation. So good for you, Isaiah Crowell. Very good for you. Happy to see that, young man. Keep it going. Keep your nose clean. But back to the conversation, and you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show, is all these guys have come over the years, and this seems like the best one since Herschel. Todd Gurley seems like the best running back in running back U. And there have been some great ones. I mentioned a couple earlier. How about Musa Smith? How about Tim Worley? There have been some great Georgia running backs, but none that you would even put in the conversation with the legacy of the great Herschel Walker. Nobody even close. Nobody even close. Except for this guy. Todd Gurley. And if Georgia can continue to win their games, and Gurley can stay healthy, that's something else that you have an issue without with Todd Gurley, is you got to stay healthy, okay? And I got a couple of tweets here. Here's a tweet from Jeremy Butler. Says, yeah, I remember Jasper Saints, L. Another one from Jeremy. He says, I agree about Gurley being the best since Herschel. Yes, he is. And that's saying a lot, because once you have the reputation like Georgia's had, okay, and everybody looks at Georgia as running back U because of Herschel, I assume. You can go all the way back to Charlie Trippey, but that's a long, these kids don't know who the hell that is, okay? So Georgia's been running back U, and they've had their pick pretty much of the best running backs in the country, and they got Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall at the same time, and it's because I think they sell the fact that this is running back U, but they haven't panned out, except for Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley is a beast, and you saw it real early. I feel kind of bad for Keith Marshall, not, he's adding the injuries on top of it, but Keith Marshall picked the wrong school. And both of these kids came out of North Carolina, came out the same time. They were kind of splitting carries, and Gurley's just shined. He's just shined over everybody else. And Marshall might be a great player, but the injury and the fact that he's on the same team with Todd Gurley isn't good. It isn't good. If you're a South Carolina Gamecock fan, you remember when my homeboy Mike Dingle, who's the Gatorade Player of the Year, he signed to play with the Carolina Gamecocks. But they already had Harold Green. Harold Green played like 10 years in the league. He was the starting running back for the Cincinnati Bengals for a long time, finished his career here in Atlanta. So when you have that type of talent, you got to go somewhere where you're going to get to play. You're going to get to play. There's too much money on the line. And but yeah, Todd Gurley is that dude. Over a lot of disappointing running backs over the years, Todd Gurley is that dude. All right, up next on the Doug Stewart Show, we're going to grab some calls. We're going to talk about your tweets. And then we're going to talk about Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys. Are they that good? Or do the Saints just suck? We'll get into that. Read your tweets. Having some fun on this Man Talk Monday on the Doug Stewart Show. I'm always saying get with the times. Stop acting like you at your mama house, calling that girl you met at summer camp 2 states away, and your mama screaming out, I know you better not be talking long distance running up my bill with that little hussy girl. Well, get with the times with the long distance charges. Presenting Univon. Univon offers unlimited worldwide calling to 60 plus countries for $14.99 a month. No contract, no activation fee, and no cancellation fee. Users can call anytime using their mobile phone or home IP phone. So stop flushing money down the drain. Get more details by clicking Univon's link banner on the DougStewartShow.com or the link on the DougStewartShow.com app. Try out Univon and call your peoples like you not at your mama house. All right, I know the deal. You've been thinking about starting that online store, right? And you do know e-commerce makes billions a year. That's right, billions with a B. Well, just do it, and do it right with my friends at AmeriCommerce. AmeriCommerce is an easy-to-use tool to sell anything online, on Facebook, and through mobile phones. Over 100,000 merchants and website owners have chosen AmeriCommerce to handle their stores and customers. They have the most in-depth features in the industry, which include multiple storefronts, website management from one source, a Facebook shopping application, a mobile-optimized website, and much more. Don't let eBay, Amazon, and Zappos get all the money. Get your piece of the pie, too. Click on the link on the DougStewartShow.com or the app link for details. The Doug Doug Stewart Show is off and running. But just like every company, we need sponsors. Would yours like to work with one of the livest, most dynamic, and recognized sports talk show personalities in America? By the way, that's me.